Hey everybody, Hindi and Chayale here, and we are here to give you some bad advice. Just kidding. We are going to share with you some bad advice that we have heard, and we kind of want to nitpick and tear apart what we don't like about it and see what you think. All right, we are ready for our next piece of advice. The one that we got today was you should always be ready for your husband. That was the wording we got. No matter what, just be ready for him. Um, and I think we should expound a little bit. Like what I'm hearing in that is when he wants you and he needs you, if he wants to talk to you, like everything should just stop. And
Hmm.
you should give him 100% of your attention. That's what I'm hearing. What are you hearing?
Yeah, it sounds like that feeling of like maybe a version of, he's your top priority, but like a little bit taken a bit further than that what that looks like is you're at his beck and call. So a phone call, when he walks through the door, you're ready. It might also mean like being dressed a certain way
Mm,
to always be there for him. I think it could be so many different things depending on the dynamic of a couple, like what a particular husband's preferences are, like emotionally available, physically available, looking a certain way, having certain things ready for him. Um, and maybe like an outcome of a more traditional respect model where we
mhm.
talk about like the acting respectful in like kind of being of service to your husband, um, which is something that I think can complicate things for a woman to get into that. Usually, mostly just makes her feel resentful
Right.
if she feels like she's a slave or a servant to her husband and she's not honoring her experience and her voice and her limits.
Right. Right. So like here's the thing. Mhm. I like where this advice. I mean, I definitely received this, and I definitely can relate to the acting respectful and heeding every beck and call and being there to be of service at all hours of the night and day. Um, and I feel like that message was also taught to me as well. What I hear also you're saying is like that resentment that could come along with it, which to me sounds more like the flip side of the same coin, right? So if you're at someone's beck and call, it means you're leaving yourself behind.
Yeah.
Right. So a lot of like, let's say what moms talk about a lot is like how I'm 100% there for my kids. And then I lost myself. Right. So there is something to also being able to be there for someone else and not losing yourself, which I think is just like an ownership piece that I just want to bring to this conversation. So I'll explain a little bit further. I think this also comes from, like you're saying, it might be an offshoot of like that traditional way of looking like you're being respectful to your husband. I also think this could be an offshoot of what are your priorities more, your children or your husband? And a lot of times people will say my children over their husband, right? So this advice could almost be like trying to negate that, where no, you should be 100%, your husband should be your priority over your children. And I would say a little differently, maybe your marriage should be your priority over your children. And I think that I know it's just like one word switch, but it does make the difference. Because if you're just switching your priority to be your husband over your children, you could still be losing yourself, as opposed to what it's supposed to be, which is your relationship is the priority, you being a unit, you being um, a
Yeah.
husband and wife, mashpia mekabel dynamic that has shalom is so important, not just for both of you, but also for the kids.
Right.
So, yeah,
And when you say your marriage should be your priority, then you're in that as well. That is
right.
inclusive of you and your husband. So that means that both individuals are being considered. I think when a woman pushes herself for her husband past her limits, and in this way of like, I have to be available for the sake of holding my marriage together, very often also what happens is it just doesn't land, because she isn't even showing up, she can't. So it doesn't land, and then it's a cause for deeper frustration and further frustration, and he's not going to be able to receive what she's giving him because she's not able to give it properly. Whereas being able to say, I can't, or it's not a good time for me, or, you know, can we do this a different time, or can we figure this out a different way? That's a woman honoring herself, and it's also a way for her husband to know, like, where she is, you know?
Right. Right. And it's also something about like the always, like you always have to show up for your husband. Anytime there's an always and it becomes a rule, it's just not true, right? Like there's no truth in an always or a never. Every situation is different, right? So I can just imagining like she's bent over the bathtub and she's trying to bathe her two kids, and her husband comes in and wants to share about his day. And so like what comes up for her? A lot could come up for her. There's the thought of I have to prioritize him. I have this piece of advice, which is like my husband comes first before everything. So let me drop everything. Is it safe to just like leave kids in a bathtub or to look away? And so now she's so conflicted. And so like just a simple interaction of him saying like he wants to share something with her, and the simple interaction of she's bathing the kids comes so complicated and heavy and intense for her. So, how to navigate something like that would be, right, the marriage or the relationship is the priority. So, to say something like, I would love to hear what you have to say, and I really want to be there fully with you, and I just want to finish washing up the kids, is a perfectly reasonable thing to say. And it doesn't have to be energized, right?
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't have to have like all this energy of what's wrong with you? Can't you see what I'm doing? Right. The other woman, not the subservient woman, the woman who's like assertive, like why can't you just be your own person and a human being? Like I'm doing something right now. Can't you see me? Right. So all of that energy obviously wouldn't land well. And the energy of like frantically trying to bathe the kids and scrub them while you're looking directly at him and making eye contact with him so that he has like your full attention is also not doing anything for him. So like both ways lose. You know what I'm saying?
Right. It's also
So if
it
you
also
could,
feels a little disrespectful to like treat somebody like they have to always like, you have to always be there for him. Like, what is he that like he can't handle like waiting or a no, or like understanding that you need a minute? Like you said, if it's coming from the right place and it's done in a respectful way and it's done with the well-being of the marriage in mind, like, yeah, he'll be fine. He'll get it.
yeah, yeah. Like he's not this delicate piece of china that has to be handled with care. Obviously be respectful, but it doesn't like you don't have to protect him, right? You could
Yeah.
basically trying so hard to be respectful, you're ending up being disrespectful by trying to protect him from I don't even know what,
Yeah, implying
not
that
making
he's
eye
so
contact for a minute.
fragile. Right.
Right,
And that
right.
if you don't need to hear exactly what he has to say right this minute, then his whole world will shatter, and like that's not really giving him too much credit.
Yeah. So the word that came up a lot for me was orientation. So if I'm orienting myself around my husband, like he is my sun, my moon and stars, which is beautiful, right? Sounds like so romantic. And technically every woman would love that to hear that from her husband, right? Um, it's very romantic on the outset. And at the same time, if there's a constant orientation of one to the other, it does cause a imbalance to the mashpia mekabel dynamic. It's no longer now a dynamic. It's no longer two people who have a flow of mashpia mekabel to one to the other. It becomes just one serving the other, which is not good for, let's say, if it's him to be served all the time either. It's not, he doesn't feel fulfilled in that. He has to be the mashpia, not the one who's constantly being served. So it just like kind of flips the whole dynamic around. It's not supposed to be an orientation of just one around the other. And if you're finding that that is your experience, then that's something that has to be worked through.
Yeah, I like that word as well. Like, either, like, again, just bringing it back to what you said in connection to this wording, that the center cannot be one or the other. The center is obviously God, but just in the context of this conversation, like, the center is the marriage. So we can't have one party orbiting around the other party, because then there is not a relationship. There isn't a flow of two people interacting. There's, an unhealthy enmeshment, and one person will lose themselves in that process.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
Like she's no longer inspiring him and she's no longer receiving from him. So it just throws the whole dynamic off.
yeah. So we're gonna pass on this one.
Okay.
We would love to hear your feedback, thoughts, and questions.
Please leave a comment below or email us at yourrelationshift@gmail.com.
Looking forward to connecting with you.
See you next time.